Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni. Great Malabite.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Tundu. Lady in black.
Yes.
And have a black tie to cope with that.
Morning, Mr. Stephanie.
Yes, let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. Now, the lead story, Southern governors meet, insist on states' collection of VAT, reiterate demand for presidency, FIRS opposes inclusion of Lagos in suit, appeal court reserves ruling, report, Lagosians back Sanwo-Olu on VAT collection, anti-open grazing law. Yes, yesterday the Southern governors met again, this time in Enugu, Enugu City, the Enugu state capital, and of course reiterating points they have already made, but I think I take particular notice of that, reiterating their demand that the next president, come 2023, has to come from the South. In fact, they use the word must come from the South. And I cannot fault them on that. Because if we want equity, unity, peace, and progress in this country, I haven't had President Muhammadu Buhari by 2023, by the grace of God, he will have done 8 years from the North. And it's a no-brainer that the next president should come from the South. Because I remember how Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, Ruben's boss, was hounded for trying to take the turn of the North. So please, all politicians should do the needful and elect their candidate from the South. I think it is a no-brainer. But let's just look at other newspapers. Now, the Guardian newspaper, the same lead story, Southern governors insisting on VAT collection 2023 presidency. But the second story, the second lead, Buhari has changed. APC, not the same party I criticized, says Fani Kayode. That's on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. And there's a quote there. I walked behind the scene to exit Umahi Ayade Matawale from PDP. Claims wooing Makinde Mohammed Ugwai. Makinde not available for APC. It's a shining star. PDP is saying, replied FFK. I don't like that initial. FFK's defection, saddest day in my political career, says Buhari, political advisor. Yes, Fani Kayode, political ding-dong. He has gone from PDP to APC. I cannot even remember the trajectory of his defection anymore, but he has defected, and he's quoting his defection in some sweet words, which, of course, he's gifted in. But I'm sure not many will take that defection very seriously, because if you know the kind, of course, they're all available in Google. You only need to just Google Fani Kayode on APC and Buhari, and you will shed tears for this country. The man can criticize the president and the parties so poignantly, only to return to the same party. But let's move on to more serious issues on the front pages of our newspapers. The Vanguard newspaper. Now, the same lead story from the Enugu Southern Governors meeting. I just look above the masthead for stories. Foreign borrowings escalate as Nigeria goes for $6.2 billion Eurobond offer. There's no end to borrowing. Now, the next story there, terrorism. Armanjiri's system fueling banditry, kidnapping in North, says Khan. Yes, because if you ask, the Armanjiris of 20 years ago, where are they today? Maybe a number of them are part of the bandits gang in the forest. And the Christian Association of Nigeria is saying that system where you just put children on the streets to go and beg in the name of acquiring Islamic education, and thereafter you leave them to their fate, is fueling this system. If only somebody has continued with the Jonathan model of these children receiving proper Western education alongside Western education in those schools built by Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, perhaps we'll not be talking of Armangeri in the same light today. But those schools were abandoned when Jonathan was defeated and left office. Now, another story, still on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. 10 soldiers killed as insurgents ambush military convoy in Borno. This is one ambush too many, because a few days ago, soldiers were ambushed in the northwest. 12 were killed. And that was blamed on the lack of communication facilities, according to the Daily Trust newspaper. Now another set of soldiers. But one thing it tells us is that our soldiers, our gallant soldiers, are taking the battle to the bandits, to the terrorists in the northeast. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, despite court ruling, southern governors insist on VAT collection. That's the lead story on the front page. Now, I just look above the masthead of the Daily Independent newspaper. Senator Ndume Bire's National Assembly PD approval of Buhari's loan request. Many Nigerians expect some thorough job about how past loans were spent, but this National Assembly, under the watch of Dr. Lawan, yes, the Senate President has pledged to approve anything that comes from the President. So they are keeping to that pledge. The Punch newspaper, federal government to spend $4.9 billion fresh loans on Kanu, Niger Republic rail line orders. Railway will improve trade among Nigerians, Niger, North Africa, says Buhari. Anambra, Benue, Ogun, Taraba farmers, others to benefit from $50 million loan. National Assembly's speedy approval of Buhari's loan request worries in Dume. Sure, Nigerians will be bothered about the recent request for loan going to take rail to Niger Republic. But that is what this administration is doing. That is what they have decided to do. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, just beside the masthead, I'll take that story. IPOB suspends sit at home indefinitely, sets up task force to punish those enforcing order, denies involvement in killing of Anglican priests. So, IPOB, they have suspended sit at home every Monday. So we expect all traders, workers in the southeast who have been defying government and obeying the IPOB to please go back to their businesses. Now, I'll just look at the foreign newspapers quickly. The Financial Times. China attacks Cold War mentality of three-nation nuclear subs pact. Fury over Australia, UK, US deal. Relief in Taipei and Tokyo. Paris contract cancelled. Yes, the pact between the US, UK, and Australia to help Australia acquire nuclear submarine. Because according to China, smacks of the Cold War mentality, but that is not the only opposition. The French are also opposed to it because, for business reasons, they had a deal to build those submarines for Australia, but suddenly, Australia has done a U-turn. But at home, Boris Johnson is not having it easy. The Times of UK tell us if deal will drag Britain to war. Prime Minister urged. Johnson challenged over defense pact with US Australia, of course, in the forefront of that opposition is former Prime Minister Theresa May, who asked the Prime Minister in the Commons about the implications of the partnership in the event Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Will UK join and go to war? It's a question from the former Prime Minister, Ruben Rufai, and Tundu in black.
It's a very reasonable question. I have to say, I'm really enjoying Theresa May as a backbencher. I think she's more effective as a backbencher in many ways than she was as a PM, I have to say. But it's a reasonable question because that's the whole point of an alliance. If China does invade Taiwan, they're going to have to look at World War II. When Germany invaded Poland, Britain had to declare war. It's quite scary. But my problem in all this is NATO. Where is NATO in all of this?
I'm sure Jan Stoltenberg has nothing to say.
Yeah.
If you thought President Trump was trying to belittle or undermine NATO, then what will you say of this pact?
This is the death knell. NATO has just been sidelined.
But I think NATO has no muscle.
Completely sidelined at this point.
We all know that NATO has no muscle again. It's just faff. But I think the bigger issue in all of this is the fact that these people will still de-escalate because what is really on the cards is trade. And trade is more important than all of this. The reason why China is fighting its wars of dominance is because of trade. And the reason why the UK too is trying to put a skin in the game is because now it's free to do whatever it wants to do after Brexit. And it needs to show a very big, strong force. And Boris Johnson, no matter how you see it or not, is preparing for the next elections already. He's done the cabinet reshuffle and all of that. So these guys will sort themselves out. They're always greedy and selfish. I don't think highly of them.
Well, yesterday, as I pointed out to Mr. Michael Wilson, I had raised the question whether, giving Australia the opportunity to develop nuclear submarines with also artificial intelligence support will not change the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. And clearly, it will shift the balance of power. Australia had been for a very long time very good trade partner of China. And now you have the UK and the US under the AUKUS trying to prop up Australia with more military arsenal. And then, of course, you know that the South China Sea has been a major area of conflict, particularly between China and the US. The US doing a lot of reconnaissance operations within that axis. So China has every reason to be nervous about this. And that's why China has said, look, this is a very provocative act. It doesn't make any sense. And if you now have a situation whereby the U.S. is building more allies in South China Sea, then of course, it will escalate tensions in that region. The U.K. pulled out of the Indo-Pacific militarily about 50 years ago. Now they are going back. And that's why the question by, former Prime Minister Theresa May is relevant. Okay, is the UK going to be involved, or Britain rather, going to get involved itself in war? Particularly if, China engages in any kind of aggressive action, maybe against Taiwan, or, it further imposes pressure on Hong Kong. That could be a potentially difficult situation. And don't forget also that this new alliance is coming on the back of the US, NATO, and the allies withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yes.
So what are the strategic interests? These are the things that we need to unpack. If there is war or at any time or conflict in that region, of course, it will affect global trade. It will result, as we have seen, even with a natural disaster like COVID, in supply disruptions in the world. Now, I asked Mr. Wilson whether we can link this to China also within the same period, joining the Trans-Pacific Alliance of 11 countries, or sending an application to the Secretariat in New Zealand. He says, no, that must have been in the works. But all of these things, you can connect them, in terms of geopolitics, strategic alliances, and also the implications in the long run for global trade.
But if we follow the trade argument of Rufai, if US can strike a favorable trade deal with China, will they not de-escalate?
All of that will go. You see, in the end, it's about money. That's just
Because
it.
that has been the problem.
That's
that
money.
China is having so much leeway in terms of trade everywhere.
Simple.
No, it's about balance of power.
Which is the issue with Australia as well.
It should be balance of power. Because China is also a member of the RCEP, which is trade alliance with 15 countries. Now it wants to join this, other alliance. It wants to boost its economy. That's a strategic
Simple
interest.
trade.
But there is that conflict
Money.
at the basis of it. Conflict in terms of influence. Who is the dominant figure beyond trade? Geopolitics.
Because trade is also a way to, your economy is a way to project your power.
Oh, yeah. Money,
And China
money,
is doing that very
Thank you.
effectively.
Thank you very much. Well, I recommend the book, The Coming Conflict with China. There are many dimensions.